What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more
relationships.
If you'd like to skip that initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, as it really helps out the channel. And let's crack straight on with today's stories. Our first story does come with an update, and it's from a throwaway account titled, "I think my sister-in-law's 23 female best friend, 23 female, is trying to get with my 25 female husband, 28 male, and she's encouraging it. Am I delusional? My sister-in-law, 23 female, is my husband's 28 male half-sister. She was the product of their mother's infidelity. His father divorced their mother when he was 12, after he found out through a paternity test she wasn't his. My father-in-law refused to have anything to do with my sister-in-law, but continued to have a relationship with my husband. Because of this, my sister-in-law is very clingy to my husband. My husband is also very protective of his sister, and generally doesn't tolerate anything negative being said about her, which is why I'm posting this here before mentioning anything to them. My husband and I bought a house last year, which has its own indoor swimming pool. My sister-in-law was super excited when she saw it, and asked if she could use it sometimes with her friend. We said it was fine, as long as she gave us notice before she turned up. Her and her friend, Chloe, have used it many times before, but almost never when my husband is home. He is a lawyer and works long hours. With lockdown, my husband has started to work from home. My sister-in-law asked me if she and Chloe could come over and use the pool. I told her I was uncomfortable with him coming over as I'm pregnant and don't want to accidentally expose the baby to anything risky. My sister-in-law then asked if she and Chloe quarantined for 2 weeks, would they be able to come over? My husband said it was fine. 2 weeks later, they turned up to my house. My husband was in his office, so they go straight to the pool after making small talk. My husband ends up coming out after an hour and we're hanging out in the kitchen. My sister-in-law walks in to get a drink and she starts talking to my husband. Before she goes back to the pool, she says, "Chloe's going to be happy to see you." It was weird because my husband and Chloe aren't close. Chloe comes into the kitchen 2 minutes later and spends the rest of her time talking to my husband until he excuses himself to get back to work. She's super giggly and smiley when she talks to him. He would say something sarcastic and she would laugh like it was the funniest joke she's ever heard. It honestly felt like she was flirting with him. Before she went back to the pool, she gave me this weird smirky look. Before they leave, they ask my husband if he's working from home every day of the week. He confirms he is. The next 2 weeks they come over to the house to swim every single day, except Chloe never gets in the water. Instead, she hangs around the house in a bikini. She was previously wearing a one piece if it makes a difference, every single day. When my husband comes out to hang around me, she quickly interrupts him and keeps talking to him until he has to go back to work. I made lunch for us all, and when I excused myself to call my husband down, my sister-in-law quickly stopped me and said Chloe could call him for me. They shared a look, and Chloe looked really happy when she went to get him. Chloe has also started to get touchier with my husband. She puts her hands on his chest and arms, stands or sits really close to him. To my husband's credit, he does usually create space between them whenever she does something like this. The reason I believe my sister-in-law is in on this because she's made a few pregnancy-related jabs at me recently. She told me a story about how one of her friend's boyfriends was cheating on her, and then said something along the lines of, "Did you know a lot of men start cheating when their wives are pregnant?" She also made comments about how I look chubby now, and it looks weird next to my husband, because he's well built. If she spots my husband out of the office, she quickly goes to inform Chloe. I know pregnancy hormones can mess with a person's brain, so I'm wondering if I'm just looking for something that isn't there. My sister-in-law sent me a text yesterday asking if they could come over to swim next week, and I really want to say no, but I know she'll whine to my husband if I do. I ideally want to have a conversation with him before then, but I'm not sure if I should mention the flirting. Am I being delusional? And unfortunately on this post the update was included into the main post because the original post got deleted because they didn't use a throwaway account or something along those lines. So all the comments on this are usually to do with the update. So we're not going to cover any of the comments. I will give my initial opinion though. I don't know if you really want to hear it, but you're going to. Sassy Mark in the house. And to me, this is definitely not pregnancy hormones taking over or anything of the sort. Chloe is clearly trying something on here. I mean, and the whole sister-in-law like stopping you to get Chloe to call him for you, and then Chloe looking really happy about it. She's getting touchier with your husband. Yeah, these are not pregnancy hormones, and it needs to be stamped down pretty quickly. And to me, I would immediately go to your husband and say, look, I'm concerned about what's going on here. What are your thoughts? You know, husband could be feeling uncomfortable himself in this situation. I mean, he's trying to create space between them when she's moving closer to him. So there is that as well. So now we're going to cover the update, then we're going to move to some comments. So we'll start off with the update. Well, I read and reread all the comments on the original post to try and figure out how I was going to bring up the issue. Turns out I didn't have to. We were watching a movie and my phone lit up with another text from sister-in-law telling me how she was now going to be here at 1 PM the next day to swim with Chloe. My husband saw it and told me to tell her not to come. This is really weird behavior from my husband because he tends to do anything to accommodate my sister-in-law and very rarely refuses her anything. I asked him if something had happened and he shrugged it off and we kept watching the movie. A few minutes later, he paused the movie and said he wanted to ask me a question. He asked if I'd noticed Chloe never swam when she come to our house. I wish I could say I was calm and collected like the comments were advising, but I ended up laughing hysterically. I was honestly just so relieved he'd brought it up instead of me having to be the one to do it. I think my husband thought I was losing my mind. When I finally stopped laughing, he repeated the question and said he wanted a serious answer. I said, of course I've noticed, and he awkwardly replied, so you must have noticed the other thing too. To summarise the conversation that followed, my husband hadn't noticed Chloe was flirting with him the first few days because he was so busy with work. He wasn't really paying attention to anything else. He said when she started getting handsy is when he suddenly had the light bulb moment that she was into him. He says he didn't want to unnecessarily stress me out, so he never mentioned anything, but he was worried I'd noticed too and thought he was interested because he hadn't immediately shut it down. He realised we would eventually have to have this talk, but he wasn't sure how to bring it up. Oh, the irony. He did privately speak to Chloe and told her he was happily married and wasn't interested in starting anything with anyone else. Apparently, she never took him seriously because she kept doing it. In the end, he called his sister on Sunday to tell her either she got her to stop or Chloe couldn't come over anymore. His sister ended up having a tantrum and said a few nasty things about me/the baby and our relationship. She insisted I was somehow behind his request and made some comments about how I was controlling and insecure because I looked like a beach whale and Chloe was younger and hotter. He was pretty pissed at this and said if she said something like that about me again, he would stop speaking to her. She claimed I had baby trapped him, and when my husband pointed out we were already married so I didn't need to trap him and that he was the one who wanted to start a family, she kept insisting I had manipulated him into feeling that way. She claimed he was unhappy in our relationship and he always looked tired because I was forcing him to slave away to fund my fancy lifestyle, whilst I sat on my ass all day. He pointed out he chose to be a lawyer knowing he had to work long hours and I only recently left my job, so her accusations were baseless. She said some other stuff along the same lines, but the thing that made my husband finally snap was when she said the baby was already ruining everything and it was just going to get worse when it was born and he should have dragged me to the abortion clinic whilst he had the chance. Holy shit. He told her neither her nor Chloe were welcome in our home anymore until they apologised for how they'd been behaving and for the things my sister-in-law said. He said he wasn't sure he could ever forgive or forget what she said about our child, even if she did apologise, and he couldn't believe she would even think something like that, let alone say it. Apparently she started crying and said she was sorry, that she didn't mean it and she was just scared to lose him and that she wasn't thinking clearly. He hung up on her. He showed me his phone and she'd been calling him since, begging him to reply. He asked if she'd said anything to me. I was debating whether to say anything or not, but he kept insisting he knew she had said something and he wanted to know what it was. I told him the things I mentioned in the original post and a few other things she had said. He asked me why I never mentioned anything when she first said it, and I mentioned how he got really defensive whenever I said anything even slightly negative about his sister, and he got defensive. I pointed out he was doing it again, and after some back and forth he admitted that maybe he was a little bit defensive when it came to her. But he promised to stop, and he wanted to make sure we could talk about anything, including his sister. He ended up mentioning wanting to try couples counselling. He said it wasn't because he thought there was something wrong with our relationship, but apparently he has been speaking to his dad a lot recently, and he mentioned one thing he regretted about his marriage with mother-in-law is that they never went to therapy until the cracks in their relationship were too big. In his current marriage they go, and it's helped him avoid the mistakes of his first marriage. I agreed, so we're probably going to try that soon. My husband thinks my sister-in-law will eventually turn up, even if we tell her not to, but he promised he'd deal with her if she does. So Reddit, I guess you were right. I really did need to speak to him. Thanks for the advice, comments, I enjoyed reading them all. You know, this is a positive update, you know, husband, wife, seeing eye to eye, getting therapy, all that sort of stuff, and I think it's totally positive in that respect. In some ways, I was really hoping that the sister-in-law was going to come back into it in a positive manner as well, but that comment about the abortion stuff was just like, it was way too much. I was like, oh my word. And if someone was to say that about like my hypothetical family or whatever, would I be able to forgive that? I don't think I could. I know she's sorry and she's begging, but this girl's 23. She understands the consequences of saying something like that, even to think something like that. It's bizarre, man. But Run the TV 27 says, this is a good update. A couple communicating honestly that solves a problem and going to therapy for a check-in to help them facilitate better communication in the future. You'd love to see it. Wishing you and your husband the best, and I hope this means a little less stress for you during your pregnancy. Anonymous onlooker says, Chloe and your sister-in-law sound massively trashy. C8 Ball says, I love a good update. Your husband's a keeper. Good on both of you. So happy it worked out. Love you and your baby and your husband who is willing to stick up for you and himself and your baby. The Unknown G says, great update, or Greer update. I just want to add, I think couples counselling is a fantastic idea. Usually people don't know how their own feelings work, nor how to deal with them. So working for a healthy communication, for a better understanding of your own feelings is always a good thing to do. You don't need to have a problem to go and work on your relationship. And there's loads of them just saying great update and all that kind of stuff, but we'll finish up with R280 who says, just some advice, even if sister-in-law comes back, you need to ban Chloe from your lives and home. She disregarded your husband's request to stop hitting on him. How would it be if a man did that to you? Now, what do you guys make of this situation? What do you think of the update? What would you do? Would you ever let sister-in-law back into your home after the comment she made to wife about her pregnancy and the way she looks, to the abortion comment as well? Holy moly. Let me know your thoughts and we'll move on to the next story. And this next story I found quite interesting because it was someone asking about a crazy psycho ex. Anyway, we'll get into it with a throwaway account saying, I 32 male overheard my wife 31 female telling a friend that her crazy psycho ex-boyfriend is back in town. I wasn't spying. I was cutting the grass and stopped to have a drink. She was on the phone and I overheard her. Basically, her ex is back in town. He tried adding her on Facebook and she accepted. She'd been talking to him and feels he's changed. He wants to meet up to apologize for all the horrible things he's done to her. She thinks he's sincere and is happy to forgive. Her ex-boyfriend is a genuine, crazy monster. She had a restraining order against him after I convinced her. We were all afraid he might end up murdering us. We were that scared he would. He was that much of a monster. Have I mentioned how abusive he was to her? This was 9 years ago. We haven't heard from him since and I've forgotten about him. I confronted her about this and voiced how concerned I was. Honestly, I told her I felt it was a betrayal and she should be open with me. This isn't some old flame, this is a guy who threatened to murder us. He told her that he'd absolutely murder me to show he truly loves her. She acts as if it's no real big deal. She's more upset I spied on her and she claims he's changed and isn't a monster anymore. Yeah, sure, once a monster, always a monster. I refuse to believe he's reformed, not one fucking bit. If he's reformed, he'd stay away from her and cut off all contact. She admits she wasn't going to tell me. She didn't want to add to my stress and it doesn't involve me. He was abusive to her, not me. I barely even met him. She dated him for years. This is closure for her, not me. I don't really know what to do. I do not believe he has good intentions. I do believe there is a good possibility he may wish to harm me or her. I can't really find out. I don't have Facebook and his is private. How can I convince her that this is a very bad idea? How can I tell her that I'm not controlling and that it affects me too? I think I'd be in the same boat as OP on this one. I'd feel super uncomfortable about this. And OP mentioned towards the end there maybe it's closure for her. But at the same time, what really got me concerned is she was happy to hide this from you, that she was going to go and meet an ex-boyfriend, you know, someone that's done all this stuff, and was going to go meet him without actually telling you anything. And you're right, this does have an effect on your life too. What happens if they do become friends? Is you going to start inviting them around your house? Are you going to have to see this guy? Is there ill intention behind it? We don't know. And after 9 years, would I want someone like that back in my life? Absolutely not. Let's see what some of the comments say. Me at my house says no, just no. She does not need to meet up with him for any reason. She should unfriend him immediately. 9 years of no contact is all the closure he needs. Reticular Formation says, not sure what to tell you to do here, but I empathize with you. It takes a lot of time and effort to distance yourself from a psychopath. Getting back in contact is like erasing those 9 years of progress. The fact that your wife intended to hide this from you and was even considering meeting up with him absolutely indicates that he still has a grip on her and is influencing her thoughts and actions. I feel like an ultimatum is in order here, although the outcome will be dramatic either way. Rory JSK says 1. This is not the sort of thing you keep secret from your spouse. 2. Doesn't matter if he's changed, he threatened to kill you, and if your partner is willing to forgive that, then she cares more about the ex than she does you. 3. This is where an ultimatum is warranted. Kid Halloween says she wants closure but adds him on Facebook. That makes no sense. Does she have a therapist that she can talk to? I don't think there's anything you can say or do to change her mind. All you can do is be prepared and be firm and be ready to follow through. I'm not going to tell you what to do, I can only tell you what I'm going to do if you really think this person is worth having back in your life. Kyle Hart says, I know you don't want to believe it, but something's definitely suspect, especially if she's making a big deal about you spying on her. Love makes you stupid, but take a step back and view the situation in third person, and you understand she was planning something. Unfairly Certain says, she is effectively inviting him back into both of your lives because there isn't a way to separate your wife's involvement from your own. You don't deserve to live in fear, and this is grounds for a guilt-free divorce if you want one. And we'll have one more from Smile Anyway, who says, I'm sorry, but your spouse is being naive, insensitive, and reckless. Please go to the police station ASAP with a copy of the old restraining order and talk to an officer about what is going on between your wife and her ex. Get the officer's card and advice. There is absolutely no reason for her to meet with him. The fact that she was willing to withhold this information from you clearly demonstrates that her ex still has control over her, and that is what he wants. I would let her know in no uncertain terms right away that the choices you both make affect you as a couple, and if she engages her ex in any way, you will never be able to trust her to have your family's safety and best interest at heart. If her ex wanted to see your child, would she oblige to that too, and not tell you? The choice is hers. 1. Appease her abusive ex, assuage his feelings, and risk losing everything you've accomplished together, sneaking away from your home to honour his ex's demands. Or 2. Block all lines of communication with her ex and commit to honouring her marriage vows and personal safety. You have some hard decisions to make too, because she has a trauma bond with him that allows him to manipulate and access her. And that makes this triangle dangerous for your life and future. Check to see if she has a new insurance policy on you. She can't love and respect you well because she does not love herself or really know what love is at this point. If you don't adamantly put your foot down on this, she will not respect you. Now, what do you guys make of these stories? What are your thoughts on this? Would you be able to give any additional advice to OP here on what to do? Lots of people saying an ultimatum is the way to go here. Do you agree with that? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and your thoughts on both of today's stories and the update as well. Always love to hear them, and your thoughts on us covering relationship stories. We're doing a couple more here and there. Getting a lot of good feedback, and some of you guys are liking these, so we seem to be doing like an Am I the Arsehole followed by relationships and that kind of thing. May occasionally throw a malicious compliance in coming soon. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and just a huge thank you for the time out of your day. Your time, love and support means the absolute world, so thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, much love.